Hello, Sophie.
Welcome to Sunday Lunch, Reality Served, where we're discussing reality TV, pop culture, and what distracted us this week.
We sure are. But before we get into that, what do we have in our cups this week? Sophie, what are you drinking?
Well, I prepared something special. I'm
Oh,
drinking a rooibos tea because it has a little bit of a maroon tinge.
it does. It's got a beautiful little raspberry looking tinge, very in line with our branding.
Queenslander.
Oh, Queens. Oh, did they win last night?
They did win. Do you identify as a Queenslander or a New South Welshman?
I identify as a person that does not like to watch football on television, but will be a Queenslander or a New South Welsh woman, depending on who wins the series. Yeah.
Unacceptable.
Oh,
But
boo-hoo.
Charlie's obviously New South Wales, yes?
Yes, well, he is definitely a New South Welshman, but I just go for whoever wins because I'm confused. I have a confused state identity, and you can't force me into picking someone. And it's also really happy when you win every year.
Okay, I will give you that. But yes, it was a very exciting game last night. And when I guess I'm going to be our like designated sports reporter, which is deeply concerning. But
Most
it was an
definitely.
excellent game. Okay, what's in your cup?
I've got iced coffee again, which is my Hunt and Brew. Call me Hunt and Brew. But I will say, yes, you are going to be our dedicated sports reporter because my sports is Housewives.
It is sports. I feel like that's a whole thing in itself. But I was just thinking, I'm like, why am I so into the state of origin? But it's only because, well, I didn't know anything about football growing up. Um, Other than our brothers screaming, Wally's a wanker
Oh,
and getting in
Wally.
trouble at Sunday lunches,
Yes.
in your backyard, which I'm confused because I think Wally Lewis is actually a legend.
It depends who you ask. Clearly.
Okay.
But why were we
Anyway,
screaming that in our backyard? I think Wally was meant to be like he'd like one of his family members was a neighbour of ours or something.
yeah, I think it was like his sister-in-law or something, but I just remember our brothers like screaming like, "Wally's a wanker," and then like our parents yelling at them. It's
I
like anyway, I don't know anything about, football other than I am a Queenslander, but I now an AFL tragic,
you
go
are,
Brisbane Lions.
which I
Oh my god,
found
almost
impressive. You've made that into a whole hobby, so good for you. But
yeah, I'm a bandwagon girl.
you're a bandwagon girl. Hey, if it makes you happy, you go be a bandwagon girl. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that.
absolutely. Okay,
So, today we are going to start with our reality recap. So, we're going to be chatting a little bit about the Valley, a little bit about Below Deck, and a little bit about Rhode Island. And after that, we're going to go into what's been sort of keeping us distracted or distracting us during the week this week. And then we'll finish up with our recommendations. So, let's get into our reality recap.
Well, I noticed this week on our Instagram, and if you're following our Instagram, you may also have noticed, everyone, that Sofia is a Janet from the Valley apologist. I saw a couple of memes that you put up, and I was like, and then I saw something about her holding the show together or carrying the plot, and I was like, this cannot stand. I had no idea Sophia was so, what's the word, like obtuse about this. Like, no, we need to talk about Janet. We need to talk about the Janet of it all. And what we decided to do was have Sophie make her case to me about Janet. Now, if you guys haven't watched The Valley yet, I'm torn between recommending it or not. It is a bunch of the original Vanderpump Rules crew, and it follows them into their lives as supposedly adults, having babies, which is terrifying, living in the valley, which looks like a very hot part of Los Angeles,
mm,
populated with
yeah.
farmhouses that look completely incongruent. And they're all trying to like get their lives together. But I guess the problem is they're just reality stars, so they don't really have lives. And we've been following them, and we're up to season 3, and Janet has been polarizing from season 1. So why don't you take it from here with Janet? Because I have so many thoughts. If I don't hand the mic to you right now, I will never shut up about Janet.
You will jump in. Yes, I was shocked, Jessie, shocked. So when I went ahead and made those memes last week and posted them, I thought we would be on the same page. And so I have made notes, okay, because I have evolved my Janet opinion over the 3 seasons. And so that's sort of where I thought you might be at. But let me present my case. So first of all, Janet wears a lot of brown.
Ugh.
And brown, great. I would like to say before you roll your eyes, I have worn brown on 100% of our episodes. 100%.
You look beautiful in. Janet,
Secondly,
never mind.
no, okay, no, we don't talk about what is it, aesthetics, looks here. Second point, she is a fan. I am also a fan. So she met Sheena, like she met the crew through Sheena by taking a selfie with Sheena as a fan. Guess who else has taken a selfie of Sheena as a fan?
I know. It's
Me.
you. And can I just tell everyone, I won't interrupt your case for Janet, but I just want to say you look so beautiful in that photo. Sheena looked beautiful. You both look beautiful together. I was like, oh my God, they could be sisters.
Well, she didn't make a podcast with me, but she made one with Janet, which is how obviously Janet got into the group. And so, I mean, thirdly, I think she's funny. She was interviewed about season 3 and they said in a self-deprecating way. So they're like, "Are you going to have a better season 3?" And she's like, "If you hated me on season 1 and you hated me on season 2, you're going to hate me on season 3." And I just thought there was something, anyway, very self-deprecating about her. And I've seen her interviewed. So at the last BravoCon, Bravo and Cocktails interviewed her and they've said horrible things about her. And she still sort of faced up and had an interview with them, was really kind, and they sort of changed their opinion on her based on sort of how she was showing up. But the real basis of my argument is that I think that if we had known what we know now about the Danny situation at the start of season 1, if we were in on what we know now, we would have viewed her differently from the start. So I would like to use the parable of the Emperor's new clothes. And this is what I think has been happening. I think she could see that the Emperor had no clothes from before season 1. They all knew it. They're an actual group of fans. And so she's been screaming like, "Look, he's naked, i.e., this guy treats women terribly, whether he's drunk or not. He treats women terribly. He is a problem. Everybody knows about Darkside Danny, right?
He is a problem whether he's drunk or not. I completely agree with that, by the way.
Yeah, and so it's not down to the alcohol, which is what seems to be, they're conflating those two issues. So then here's Janet like screaming out, "The Emperor's naked," and they're all just groupthink, don't want to, get Kristen to get angry at them. Danny and Nia are this beautiful, perfect couple. So everyone's going, "Oh, wow, look at the Emperor, look at his beautiful clothes," i.e., you're bullying this Christian father and you're trying to take him down and you're saying things that aren't true. And literally Janet has been losing her mind. And at the start, I was with, I guess, the audience and everyone going, you use provocative language and you're trying to take them down and you're unreasonable. But actually, she's literally just been saying, we all know that this is a problem. This is a dark side Danny. But I think she thought through the first couple of seasons that the editors were going to have her back, and they didn't. They absolutely had Nia and Danny's back. And so, yet the rest of the cast keep just going along like, "Oh, look at the Emperor's clothes." And they're even trying to say, look, Janet, he's got brown clothes. Like trying to get her on board. And she's like, I will not. He is naked, right? And so
you'll never have my brown clothes.
Yeah, and so he's like, and I think she's been going crazy and being gaslit. And then people come around and say, "Look, if you want to stay on the show, you've got to apologize." So she goes out and apologizes, like, sorry, Danny, sorry for saying that you're a misogynist. But she actually knows that he is, and he has a dark side, and he is deeply problematic. And then she goes out to another event. He does another thing wrong. And then she like boils over and like says it all again. And so it's like, of course, her apologies have been. So anyway, all I want to say is that over the 3 seasons, I just feel as though she is now being proved to be correct. And I think she's been going crazy this whole time. And I think this is the first time that the producers, the editors have truly shown what's going on behind the scenes. Like we're getting a better view. And then the other thing I think is that we saw her through her first pregnancy and through young kids. And like, I was crazy during that time too. So I think I have a lot of empathy there. So that is why I thought, maybe you would have come on the journey too. So no. Okay. Talk to me.
I really appreciate your case for Janet. I agree with like strong elements of it. However, the journey has taken me elsewhere. Like I've come on a journey with Janet. The journey is like the too long didn't read it of it all is that she will throw anyone under the bus for a storyline because she has none. Like, I'm sorry, she's dull and Jason is dull. Now, that's okay. We need the Greek chorus, right? In all these shows, we need the dull one to point at the emperor and say, he's got no clothes on. You guys are all nuts. The problem with Janet for me is and I actually, initially I was going to remove Danny from this conversation and have it separately, but actually I think we can have it like holistically, because
Okay.
from season 1, we actually saw that Danny was a drunk that spoke horribly to Nia, and the editors did include that. He dressed up as a pirate or whatever from some show,
It's
Outlander.
true, you're right.
He spoke
Yes,
to her
yeah, on that
horribly.
trip.
Yeah, Nia said to Danny, this was in season 1, Danny, you've now sworn at me on national television because you're drunk. Go to bed. None of this was a
Mm,
secret. Now, back
mm,
in season 1, I just want to say my issue with Janet is I think the way she treats people is underhanded, and I
mm,
personally don't like that. I'm not comfortable with underhanded. She excluded Kristen, who was apparently one of her best friends with Sheena, from a trip to Big Bear, and Zach. And I'm a number one Zach apologist. I will say that from the start. The only thing, honestly, keeping me watching this show at this point is Zach, because I find him quite charming and hilarious, even though he has issues of
mm,
his own, as everyone on this show does. My God,
as
can they
they all
all go
do.
see a decent therapist, please?
Mm,
But she excluded Kristen. Now, the reason she excluded Kristen was because Janet told Kristen that Michelle's a Republican and did not and supported these laws in America called Don't Say Gay in schools. Kristen told people that, and then Janet pretended she'd never heard of it. No, and she even said the words crazy Kristen at a group dinner to discredit Kristen. Her whole first storyline, the first half of that season, was to take Kristen down, who is supposedly a good friend. And to me, there was no reason for that. And then she hid her hands and pretended that she wasn't the villain. At that point, come out
mm.
and be the villain, Janet. She got rid of
Yeah,
Kristen.
own it.
She got rid of Zach. They were excluded from a group trip, which in the first season of reality shows, everyone could be at a group trip.
Mm,
She then used the
yeah.
reason that was because she was pregnant and she didn't want to be stressed. Let's move on to season 2, where she repeatedly harangued a very pregnant Nia, a pregnant Kristen who had been through how many miscarriages, yelled at
Mm.
them drunkenly at a Mexican dinner for no apparent reason until they cried and left. Also, by the way, like as I said, we did see Danny being revolting. We did see him go into that closet and take a shot while she was warming up her mac and cheese or whatever. This brings me
I
to
will.
my other point. The entire time that Danny's getting drunk and mouthing off at Nia, which is hideous behavior, Jason and Janet are actively okay with being friends with Jax. In season
Yeah.
2, when they started to hammer Danny about what happened with Jasmine, which we can all agree is absolutely unacceptable, and the editors needed to allow Jasmine even more time, and Melissa, about that. We all knew it. They had a sit down together. They all talked about it. He never denied it. He sat down with them again and again. It's not an excuse. But we all saw in the fabric of the show that they sit down and they did what they had to do. We all saw the emperor without his clothes. We all agreed he was a dick for it. He apologized. Jasmine and Melissa accepted it. Now, do I think that if I met her in real life, I would enjoy her dry, self-deprecating humor at times? Yes. But this brings me to season 3. She goes on her
Mhm.
apology tour.
Mhm.
Her
Mhm.
whole apology to Jasmine was, "Would you like to apologize to me now?" No.
Well, yeah, okay.
And when she was apologizing to Lacey for looking up her Zillow listing and getting her HOA documents, she got up and walked away because she didn't like what Lacey was saying. Janet will not be held
Mm,
accountable. Janet will not be called out for her behavior. A broken clock is right twice a day. So I agree
mm.
with you that Danny is a massive problem. The same way Jax is a massive problem. I'm glad Jax is off the show.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And and actually I love your argument and I love your memory for details. I think, different I mean, I will say that them remaining friends with Jax, even at the time, was problematic for me, particularly Jason, who seems to have, like, a really level head on
Yeah.
most things. Um, I think that the difference internally for her is sort of the justice of it all, because everybody knew Jax was a dick, and a problem, and it was that nobody was acknowledging openly that Danny was. And so for her, I think it was the it was the justice or the unevenness of it. Like, even though both were doing bad things, I think the reason she was harping on that, I did see her interviewed about the Republican thing too, and I think there's nuance because I because she has been a registered Republican herself. She's from Ohio. But she had just said that as it went, and Michelle was talking about that particular piece of legislation. And so as it went along the rumor mill, it got changed into Janet calling her a Republican, which she actually, I believe her, didn't do. So I think, yeah, agreed. I think she was just talking about the legislation, and then people sort of roll that into, simplistic language. Again, I agree. Because she had all these show friends beforehand, she said she came in, she knew how to make good reality TV. You put it all out there, you don't try and hide, you lift up the carpet, you look underneath. And I just felt like my level of personal vitriol for her during 1 and 2, I feel like, and this is just like another silly tangent.
Yeah.
But Cyclone Cyrell. So
Maths, from Married.
from Maths. So I'd never watched Maths ever. This is my first year watching some Maths. But Cyclone Cyrell was on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So the girls and I watched that, and I really quite liked her in that. So we've gone back to watch season 6. And I don't know what the temperature was at the time, but I feel as though she would have been seen as a villain when her season came out. And yet we're watching her with the eyes of the people who loved her from I'm a Celebrity. And we're just like, go, Cyrell, go. And you can see anyway. And so that was sort of where I was like, you know what? If I knew Janet beforehand and I knew a lot of the things that she said to be true, I think, and I haven't done this, maybe I should do it. I think I could go and watch season 1 and 2 and really not see her as diabolical as I originally did. And I do think she's just an easy out for the cast now. I think when something goes wrong, they all go, look at Janet. And because they've had 2 seasons of the editors not having her back, but I think something has changed. And I do think the editors are giving her a little more leeway this season. So anyway,
I can see why you think that. I actually think they've never been against Janet from the get-go. They've allowed her to dictate who comes on cast trips from season 1. They've shown Danny, they've shown Jax. They've never hidden from this. And in fairness, what have Janet's storylines been? Pregnant and then angry at Danny and Kristen a lot. And that would be fine if I knew who Janet was. The other thing
because
is,
we know nothing about her.
not
Nothing.
really. When we talk about the fact that, there's nuance. Michelle was talking about Republican legislation, and then it got passed on to Zach and Kristen through Janet, and then it got twisted. When she explains that, all of her explanations benefit herself. And that's why I don't believe she's honest. I've never seen her genuinely apologize for something that she's done. But yes, Janet is right that Danny is a POS. I'm not going to say she's wrong. But it doesn't mean that all the other things that she does to other people is okay.
Yes, that's right. And I think who's willing to say the opposite of what the crowd is saying. Because I do really feel as though the cast did not want to bring that they did not want Dark Danny to be a storyline. And she did. And I think, her motivations for that is what is in question, I think, between the two of us, right? Between what you believe her motivations were and what I'm thinking. But I think we can leave it with like a ... because we're only, partially through this season, and I'm only sort of partially through my, my transition. So I'd love to see where it goes from here. Does she, now that she's not so involved in everybody else's drama, hopefully, can she build her own storyline? Can we get to know her a little better? Is there some substance there? Like, these are all the things like I don't know about her, which I wouldn't have been open to, but I'm opening that door. But if she just keeps her storyline, as you say, as being, nasty to others and really just turning the attention to everybody else's flaws, she can't grow as a character.
And as someone, I think, I completely agree with you. And I just think also give us something to love, Janet. Like, you don't even have to do that much. Look at Alicia from Rhode Island. She's like, I love a cracker. And we're like, we love you, Alicia. You've been sitting there in the wings with your crackers and being afraid of the stairs, and we love you. You don't even have to do much. And The thing is,
And
it's
just be funny.
be funny. And it's also hard for me to sit here and not support a woman who is actively pointing out a man being abusive. Okay, so I just want to get that out there as well. I actually think Lala, of all people, is treading the perfect line with this, Sophie. I don't know if you agree or not. I'd be interested to hear.
Yes, no, I'm with you on Lala. I originally thought, I don't want her on this show. Like, you don't belong here. You're not fitting in. Like, you won't fit in. And I am eating my words. I think she, as you say, is walking the perfect line in providing empathy, but also holding people accountable, calling Tom Schwartz out on his bullshit, but also wrapping her arms around him as needed. So yeah, no, I'm with you on the Lala.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't like Lala either. But now I can see that Lala is doing a good job of this. And so that's where I hope Janet will get to.
Absolutely. And I think you just helped me remember too, because I think that's what I was really thinking. I'm like, I would have been crazy if I was her too.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I wouldn't have been my best self because I would have been so worked up about my issues around justice that I would have been off everywhere. And now that might just be a really generous take. So let's see.
Let's see. It might be, but I also agree with that take. So I need a slightly more generous take with Janet. You can be slightly tighter maybe with Janet and we'll meet in the middle, but we're going to give her a chance and see.
Yes, thank you. I think we've nailed that with the ... Yes, okay. Let us see. And let's now move on to Below Deck. I'm so excited. So what we're going to do, I know not everybody watches Below Deck, so I wanted to take the opportunity to really talk about Below Deck from the ground up. So what it is, it's a series about people who work. So similar to like your Vanderpump Rules, it's like the work drama. And they work on a boat for a season. It focuses on the staff. And they have these really rich people come on the boat, and you get sort of glimpses of that as well, which is kind of, what we love to see.
So fun.
Yes, it is such a fun. I love the working ones. I don't know why.
Me too.
But there is,
yes.
I mean, yeah, no, that's why I'm like, oh, you'll end up liking the Charleston one. So there is, like Housewives, there is a number of, so there is the OG Below Deck, then there was Below Deck like sailing ship, which is like a big sailing ship, then there's Below Deck Mediterranean, then there's Below Deck Down Under. So there is a whole range of different casts. And so what we're doing right now is watching the opening 2 episodes of Below Deck Mediterranean season 11.
11.
So this is 11. So like it's not like some new show. It's it's got quite the history in terms of cast, because every sort of season they'll have certain casts that return and then new castmates as well. So I thought what I could do is give you a bit of a rundown on who's in this season and what's the go.
Yes. If you get us up to speed on season 11, and then we can all go watch it and get excited. So then we're like primed to go and start on Below Deck.
Then we can chat more. Okay, so there has been some off-season drama between season 10 and season 11 around one of the castmates, Nathan. So he was the bosun last year, and the bosun is like the boss of the outside, and he is the bosun again this year. So I'm going to cover off that off-season drama in just a second.
Okay.
And so when we're looking at the boat, the most senior positions are obviously the captain, and then the captain has 3 direct reports. It's the chef, who's very obviously critical to the show, but also how the boat runs, and the tips, because they're all working for the tips. Because I don't think they get paid very much, but they get these huge tips if they do a good job. So there's the captain, there's the chef, and then there's the boss of the inside, which is the chief stewardess or chief stew. And then there's the boss of the outside, which is the bosun. Look at me saying like I know about boats.
No, but
I don't know anything about boats.
Can I just say I love this? As a chef, there's a chief of the outside and there's a chief of the inside. And I think maybe we should just run our households like this. Although, you'd be surprised that I would probably be chief of the outside and Charlie would be chief of the inside, despite me wanting to be chief of everything.
I'd like to be chief of nothing. So that would be great. I'm like, Sean, you are chief chef. I'm the captain, and you are the chief of the outside, the inside, and the chef. Yay! You know what?
Perfect.
I would decorate the tables. I will do the tablescapes.
You'd be
Um,
amazing. You'd be amazing.
that's what I would love to do. So we have captaining the ship is Captain Sandy. So she's been around for a whole bunch of seasons. There was some original controversy about her. I'm not sure what it was, but I think it was just her sort of micromanagement style. But I actually love Captain Sandy. I think she is such a good boss. She is a great mentor, particularly for females coming through on the outside, but really anyone. She always lets people like practice driving the boat, and she's I just think born to be a
Leader.
mentor.
Aw.
Have you watched Pluribus at all?
I have watched some of Pluribus, actually. I've watched 3/4 of it. It was pretty good.
So if you watch it after watching Captain Sandy, you then realize that the main character is Captain Sandy.
Oh.
So not the same job, but like anyway, I could not. I was like Captain Sandy, but she got engaged a couple of seasons ago, got married, she's very happy. Her wife often comes to visit her at like the end of a season. It's very very sweet.
Oh, that's so
Um,
sweet.
it is. And so then we've got our chief stew, who is Aisha. Aisha is a New Zealander. Also, Captain Sandy's American. Aisha's a New Zealander. She has to be one of my favorite people on Bravo of
Oh.
all time.
Oh.
She is so she actually started on Below Deck season 3 and 4. So like Below Deck Med years ago as a second stew. Then she went away for years and years, and then she came back when they launched Below Deck Down Under as the chief stew with
Ooh.
Captain Jason, who's the Australian captain that
Captain
people love.
Jason, who I've never watched on TV. I just know that Heather Gay from Salt Lake City tried to pretend they hooked up when we all know that that probably didn't happen because I don't even think Heather would be into him. But
Yeah, I don't know. And we can talk about this another time, but I do have
yeah.
personal tea about Captain Jason.
Personal tea would be obviously the blanket statement that, it's all
Allegedly.
alleged and up in the air.
Alleg-
And look, people are different in different circumstances too. Like you might be cranky one day with one group of people and then be lovely in another professional
Yeah,
setting.
in the professional, yeah, he might be
Mm.
great, exactly, in the professional context, which by the way, he is. He is a great boss. Anyway, so we have Aisha. She has the sense of humor of a teenage boy. She loves to like talk about the anatomy. I remember when she, like with early, she just likes to talk about pooing and making terrible jokes. She's actually got this like, I think she's got like a science, some sort of very smart science degree. So I think she's actually just she's fascinated in everything. But her energy is infectious, and so quite often you'll have these chief stews that are like quite cranky and don't want to do the work. She works. She works so hard, and I have so much respect for her. She's so joyful.
Yeah.
I actually think she might have had a little slowdown on energy last season. It was like the first time I'd seen it, but I'm watching again this season. So we have Aisha, who's the chief stew, and then we have Nathan, who is the bosun. So Nathan is Irish, and he is the one who's had a bit of off-season drama. So he started 3 seasons ago. In that season, he made 2 very special relationships in his life. One, he met Gail, who was a deckhand, and I love when we have like a strong female deckhand who's fully capable, and that was Gail. Like she was just like killing it. So he and Gail started dating. She already had a boyfriend. It was a whole thing. But then they've been sort of on and off for a number of seasons. He also, on that first season, made best friends with this guy called Joe Bradley, and there is a Joe Bradley in Southern Charm as well. It's not that guy; it's a different Joe. And they became besties on that season, so it's quite a pivotal season. At the end of last season, Gail and Nathan decided to give it a shot. So they, everyone was very happy. They went traveling all around, and then they ended up back in Australia because Gail is Australian, and so this is where the off-season controversy stems from. So
So,
I'll just
okay, just
briefly.
to recap for everyone, we've got Nathan, who's the bosun, Gail, who's an awesome deckhand. After seasons of will they or won't they, they've gotten together. They're giving their relationship a shot at the end of last season. And we're all waiting to see how that's gone for the next season, which drops this week. But in between, there's been some drama involving Nathan in Australia.
In Australia. So, in Australia on December 14th, 2025, so last year,
Mm.
we had the Bondi massacre, which was an anti-Semitic terrorist attack at a Hanukkah celebration in Sydney. There wouldn't be an Australian that doesn't know about that.
Yeah.
It's, obviously a very, very dark day in our history. I assume internationally people know about it as well. But all roads lead back to Bravo because Nathan was there that day and he was working offshore. And he actually was able to pick a bunch of people up off the beach and remove them from danger. So actually, he was really hailed as, a hero on that day. Unfortunately, after that, he put up some really problematic commentary on Instagram about those people, keep them out of our countries, keep them out of all of our countries. And I
Oh,
won't, yeah, Jesse, like I actually have written here, brought people off the beach water and headed to sea. Terrifying and disgusting behavior. Anyone who thinks it's okay to let these people into any other country than their own can go themselves. Unfortunately, these acts paint a picture for all of them.
no.
And that picture, yeah, and that picture has been painted out, out of every country, out of Europe, and out of Australia. Anyway, I get goosebumps.
Oh, yeah, it's a very specific and targeted thing to say. I'm a little bit speechless, so I'll let you go on.
Yeah, no, same. And so obviously he lost a lot of the goodwill that he'd had from his actions. It went back and forth on the media. He had some, defenses that he shared. I'm not going to go into all of it, but it's again, I love these shows because they take me out of my reality.
Yeah.
And, you're watching for this, and so to then become aware of Nathan in the off season with, this really sort of horrendous commentary, but also heroic acts. Anyway, so I'm watching this season I just wanted to mention about Nathan because I'm watching this season just to be honest, a little bit tainted. So I just thought I would mention that.
I'm
And
glad that you
so,
did. I think, you know, oh goodness, obviously his emotions were running very high. It's the oh God, it's the fact that he said it's been painted for all of you. That's so wrong. I mean, if we're going to take that to its logical conclusion, you know, it's something like 90% of domestic abuse. y- I don't even know the correct stats, guys. So, but in Western countries, the vast majority of domestic abuse is committed by white men. And if we want to, so does that mean all white men are terrible? I'm sure Nathan would take issue with me saying that. He's a white man.
exactly. Let's all just put, paint everyone with the same brush. And
Wild, wild thing to
yeah, it
say.
is wild. Like, and he can come back and say, he was highly emotional at the time or etc. You can say, but it's a very bizarre thing to say in the
Mm,
first place.
yeah.
And I will always hope that people will grow and learn. And sometimes through these like internet cancellations, etc., that does occur. Like people actually will sort of lean in, listen, be prepared to be changed by what we hear. So I don't know what his current stance on it is. Um, but it was deeply disappointing, particularly as a person who was in Australia as an immigrant at the time. So,
Yeah. And
yeah,
yeah, and as you
ironic.
say, it taints a little bit. We do watch these shows for escapism. That's why I first started watching these shows. I'm sure you're similar. And actually, I remember I got into Housewives because I had been in hospital really sick for a period of time. I was living away from all my closest friends and family like you, and I was at home. I was isolated. I felt really depressed, and I started watching Housewives because I missed my girlfriends. And
Yeah,
so what brought me into reality TV in terms of the Bravo sphere was the lighthearted moments, the cocktails, the glamour, the fun, the laughs. And so when you look at something like Below Deck, which is such a fun show, yeah, this is something that can really taint the goodwill. So you must be feeling a little bit conflicted going in. But of course, we have to watch to see how it all pans out, I suppose.
I agreed. And, we're going to talk about it in a minute. We'll talk about Rhode Island, but that is just what I'm loving about Rhode Island. It's that, it's, you know, guilt-free in the sense that it's so entertaining. There's drama, but it's not too deep.
No.
It's not too deep so that it's not distressing. Because I'm like, watching the news is distressing. I am here for not, not for that. So, okay, so Nathan is the bosun. He's got complicated relationships. Gail is obviously not on this season. They've just had a baby. So it's another thing. Like, they have the cutest baby in the whole wide world because they bring the baby on and the baby meets the crew and it's this full circle moment. It's so beautiful. So Gail is not on this season working, but she's living close by the marina and, he's embracing dad life. We then meet Joy, who is the chef. She is French. And in the first 2 episodes, she has made me feel as though every other chef on every other season has been like pulling my leg because she is so confident. And so this boat that they're on this season, by the way, is like older but bigger than a previous boat. So it's like not as fancy. So looking at the kitchen to me looks shit house. The galley, sorry. So some of the other, like the boat, like they've just finished Down Under. The boat, the galley on that boat was just like worlds apart, maybe 3 times as big, and they had a chef hand, and they still couldn't get proper meals out. It was like this big drama every episode. Joy's just coming to this.
Is it because they're like having a little bit too much wink, wink, nudge, nudge fun in the bathroom? Like, I mean, I'm just assuming that, and I'm not, like, I'm not judging anyone, but I'm just saying, like, a little bit of like, I don't know, what do they call it? The kids call it pasta. Maybe Chef Ben just couldn't get his stuff out on time.
It's so crazy that you talk about the pasta because one of the head stews of Below Deck Med was originally, she was Australian. She was fired by Captain Sandy for having, but it was prescription drugs, but hadn't declared them.
Oh,
and
wow.
so it was this big drama because they were prescribed. I think she had like a vape and she had like some sort of wakey uppy type prescription drugs, but she hadn't declared it. Anyway, she's been gone for the series for like 10 years. And in the preview, they show her this season. And I was like, what? Because she had a baby. She's Australian. Like,
So what is that about? What is that about?
I don't know.
Also love your term for a stimulant is a wakey uppy drug. Like,
stimulant. That was the word I was looking for.
Gentle wakey uppy drugs. It's fine. It's everyone. It's fine. We're all awake now. But so this French chef is obviously just getting it done.
The food, she made this like little love heart chocolate dessert. Like it is so fine dining. And so in the first 2 episodes, like they have been so thrilled, like building, cooking croissants and bagels from scratch on the boat, like single chefing it up. Anyway, but she's like harsh. So I am loving her so far. I'm just hoping she gets along with Aisha because like quite a trope is the chief stew and the chef having argy-bargy. And I don't want that to happen because I am loving Joy and I'm loving Aisha, but let's see.
Let's hope they can do like a thing where they come together and they're both amazing with each other. Competence recognizes competence and they can just be like BFFs and then everyone's happy. And we can just reserve all our vitriol maybe for Nathan, sorry.
The outside. Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, it is Bravo, so it probably seems unlikely, but I would love that. So I'll go pretty quickly through the rest of the crew members. So all the returning crew members we've discussed. Joy is new. Then you have just like a smattering of like international young people. So we've got Cooper. He's a deckhand. He's like the all-American footballer. He had too many concussions, so now he's trying a new career. All I've written about him is that he's huge and he can do the splits.
I was going to say, God, he sounds so hot. I'm not going to lie. I'm so basic when it comes to that. You're like, his name's Cooper. He's a beefcake and he's a deckhand. I'm like, sign me up for him.
Yeah, he's basically like, Kelsey, like one of the Kelsey brothers. Like that's what he basically is.
Oh.
So then we've got Cooper. He's got 1 month's experience. He's very, very green. Then we've got Joe. So Joe is returning, and Joe was the guy that was best friends with Nathan for a couple of seasons. He is, and I've seen the second episode but I wrote these notes before I had, which is I said, we know Joe from previous seasons as a womanizing jokester who has a very sweet side,
Oh,
especially his soft spot for his mum, who he often calls for advice.
oh
So
God.
what happens is Joe like messes around and then he like cries about it. And then he rings his mum and he tells his mum and his mum says like, oh, Joe, what have you done? Like I can't do an accent.
What have you done this time?
He's like from Liverpool, but he's also Spanish or something. He speaks Spanish fluently. I don't know. It is very sad because we see at the end of the second episode, spoiler, that Joe's mum has just got breast cancer.
No.
I know, and she rings him, and I was like, I was just talking about his mum in the notes. So far, they're just like playing him as a villain. I don't see Joe as a villain. I see that Joe has womanized, as they all have. This is what they make them do on these shows. They go out and they like load them up with alcohol, and they're all single because what they do. Have you ever been on a Kentucky?
Oh God, no, darling. Although if I had been on a Kentucky, I guarantee I would have been liquored up and like single and looking around. I made terrible decisions as a drunk person in my 20s. So I'm not going to judge the below deck crew for sleeping together.
Well, they basically play the game in the first episode, you know, informally. When you get on your first Kentucky, and or any Kentucky, I imagine, they make everybody on the bus say red light, orange light, green light. Like, are you taken? Are you open? Are you like good to go? And basically, all these young cast members are going around like, who's single? Who's got a relationship? This is what they always do in the first episode,
I
and then
love
they
it.
send them out drinking and hope that love triangles ensue, and they do. And so I think like holding Joe super accountable for being womanizing. Anyway, I think it's a bit rich. Um, but Joe and Nathan had been best friends, and now Nathan has been refusing to answer any of Joe's messages since last season. Nathan's trying to come up with a whole bunch of reasons why he's angry at Joe. Joe's a womanizer, blah blah blah. So was Nathan. Anyway, Gail doesn't like Joe. So I think he just can't say, I don't like Joe because Gail doesn't like Joe, because Gail and Joe were deckhands together and they didn't get along. I love
Why
them
didn't
both.
why doesn't Gail like Joe so I can decide if I'm like Team Gail on this?
So
Is Joe
she doesn't like,
lazy and did Gail do it?
no, Joe is a very hard worker.
Hmm.
He is just a bit of an English lad. So he would say things to Gail like, and she was very sensitive too, which is fine. But she was very keen to prove her point that she was a very good deckhand, and she was. And I think he made her feel insecure about that at times. And so, I just saw a clip of it the other day. She was eating lunch and he was like, called her lazy. And she's like, oh, I'm not lazy, you dickhead. Like she was like super cross about it.
Cross about that too. Fuck off, Joe. I'm going to eat my
I
fucking
know.
lunch.
Yes, like exactly. Not the best of Joe, but I also feel like Gail and Joe were both fighting for Nathan on that first season. Like she was like
Oh,
trying to make him her boyfriend and Joe was trying to make him his best friend.
yeah.
And Nathan wasn't in a position of any power at that time. He wasn't the bosun. He was just like a colleague with them. And so that
Oh,
Nathan's now moved up into this position of power. And so last season, Joe was his second, which was great because everything was fine. But now, so Joe has gone off. So Joe is trying to come back and change his whole thing. He's like, I've been working really hard while I'm away. Career. I've been a captain. I've been a bosun. I've been a whatever. And I'm a changed man. And so like Joe's really like gunning for Nathan's job.
go. I mean, I'm not Team Joe, but I mean, like, because I did watch Below Deck like 10 or 12 years ago when I lived in Sydney in Coogee with my roommate. I was like, I would love to work on one of these boats. Fuck, I'd have so much fun. And except for like the weird cots that you have to sleep in with everyone, that would be disgusting. But I remember there'd always be like a deckhand, or like there'd be a bosun, and then like one of the outdoor crew would be like, oh, I've been a bosun like 50 million times. Like, you're a terrible bosun and I should have that job. And they'd always go up to the captain, who was some grizzly old Santa Claus man, and be like, I could do a better bosun job. And I'm like, oh my God, the white anting on this boat is absolutely wild.
I literally wrote white anting.
Yeah.
Like Joe has been white anting Nathan. And so I'll come back to all of that. I mean, so there is a bit of detail in there, but I'm thinking if you're not watching, just watch it. You'll catch on. It's not that complicated. We then meet Kaylee, who's an Australian who's in the interior. she might be the first person in history to have almost enough energy to keep up with Aisha. Like she's fully go, go, go. So go Kaylee. Then we meet Genevieve, who's an American who is very rich from New York, and her parents sent her to private schools with celebrities, and she's got ambitions.
So what is
And
she doing
so,
on this dodgy old boat with all these Aussies and New Zealanders?
well, she was
Genevieve.
there to fight for the second stew position against Kaylee. So and then we meet Kat, and she is a Canadian who's got 1 year of experience where she was urinated on by frat boys.
Oh,
So
poor Cat, and she sounds nice. She's Canadian.
yeah, she is actually nice. And so there's only like two main plot points right now. It's, you know, Joe and Nathan fighting outside for their position, and Kaylee and Genevieve, or Jen they call her, fighting inside for the second stew position. And it's just good
Good
drama
clean fun.
and
Good easy
good
fun.
clean fun.
All right, as long as we stay off their Instagrams. So here's the thing. This is what I think is key to enjoying some of these shows, everyone. And like, obviously it's up to you. But as Sophie pointed out, like, the real world is really distressing at the moment. And you'll see in my recommendations, I'm actually going to talk about something from the real world, which is distressing, but we do have to balance these two things, right? But when you are watching Bravo, it is okay to just take the show as the show is. Like,
Yeah.
when you're like, I'm a bit, we're kind of super fans, and like I troll some Reddit threads here and there, and like obviously, Sophie, you're up to date on the issue with Nathan from between seasons, which I have personally, I'd never even heard of that. I mean, I've heard of the massacre; it was absolutely awful, but not the Bravo sphere aspect to it. So like, if you don't want to follow these people on Instagram, be disappointed by them, just don't. Just enjoy the shows. That's what I say. Let's save our real world for real world. We can do that.
It has to be that way, because otherwise I couldn't, like the Ramona of it all, and the like Vicky, do I want to agree with Vicky Gunvalson's politics or values or world? No, but do I want to watch her like scream at someone in a bunko fight? Like, yes, I do.
I know.
So,
And it's okay
yeah.
to hold those two desires. It's okay. That's
Let me
what we
have
want.
both sides of myself.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So thank you. That was a brilliant rundown of Below Deck season 1, because it actually makes me want to get back into Below Deck now, especially Captain
Do
Sandy
it.
was great. And it sounds very female forward, and I actually really like that.
Particularly the seasons when you've got Captain Sandy. Anyway. Okay, so
Amazing.
what are you taking us through next?
That is the end of part 1 of our episode. Tune in for part 2. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Turrbal, Yagara, and Lutruwita peoples. We pay respect to their elders past and present.